Hey Minot, 2020 is the year for more. Yes, it's the U.S. Census season, and with it, Minot could see more. More opportunities for business, more federal funding for roads, for our schools, and for our community. Take part in something more. Take the census, because for us, more means more. Visit MinotND.
by Elgard Ventures LLC for variance to have hidden fasteners requirement waived for 3 additional buildings that are being built on Northern Plains Energy Park lots 7, 8, and 9, block 3. The property is located at 400, 500, and 504 40th Avenue Northeast. We'll turn over staff to report.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Here on the slide, you see a location map. This is in Northeast 40th Avenue and 6th Street. Here's an aerial photograph. The site in question is in a blue box there. The buildings to the left are with the green roofs are owned by the same, by the applicant, and those are storage units that he built in the past. Now he wants to build storage on the track next door. Zoom in a little bit. Actually, 3 buildings have been constructed. He was issued a conditional use permit in 2019, and they don't show on this slide because it's from 2015. But you can see the roads on 2 sides, and then on the west side, there's an existing shelter belt of trees because there are apartments there. And what the applicant's asking for is relief from a requirement in the zoning ordinance to require concealed or semi-concealed fasteners for metal panel construction. In Chapter 2 definitions of architectural metal, it says the metal panels for architectural requirements shall not have exposed fasteners. And having been here for about 3.5 years, I can tell you this has been a contentious issue. Apparently, from what I heard, originally when this was proposed, the building community was approached, and they said no big deal, but it has been a big deal. It's a lot more expensive. And our zoning ordinance steering committee met and decided that we will take this out of the code, or we will suggest to recommend that this be taken out of the code when it comes to council. That hasn't happened yet. So Mr. Melgard has built the 3 buildings you see here in tan, and followed all the code and the CUP. Now he wants to build the other 3 that are on the interior of the site. And he's asking for relief from the fastener requirement because if you look at the street views here, you cannot see into the site. You won't be able to see those buildings that are back in the interior except for long distance, maybe the roof of them, between the fencing and the buildings that are already here. So findings of fact, the applicant submitted a complete application. He's followed all the rules and got the CUP in 2019. The development is in character with the surrounding area. The applicant feels this property is unique because of the screening elements in place from phase 1. No person will be able to see the internal buildings from the public right-of-way or the apartments. And then the Minot Planning Commission is holding this hearing in conduct with the requirements of the state and locally. So our recommendation is to adopt the findings of fact and approve the variance subject to the following. Due to the unique conditions of this specific property, the requirement for concealed fasteners does not meet its intended purpose because the buildings are not visible from outside the property. And to require such fasteners will be to no avail and will increase the construction cost substantially. Reasoning for this variance request also takes into consideration lengthy ongoing discussions by city staff, the development community, and the City of Minot Zoning Ordinance Steering Committee as to the validity of this requirement, with the most recent direction being to ultimately remove the requirement from the ordinance in the near future at such time that the City Council approves the ordinance amendment. So that's a summary of that. I'd be glad to answer any questions if you have them.
Any questions for staff from the commission? All right, hearing none. I will open the public hearing. Is there anybody who wishes to speak in support of this application?
Chair DeMakis, this is Steph Dahlheim. I just have one thing to add, if I may have the floor for a second.
Sure.
In regards to what you had mentioned at the beginning of the meeting with this being a advisory board, with variances, it's actually the Planning Commission that makes the determination on whether or not to grant a variance, and the City Council will only see it if the Planning Commission denies the variance and it's appealed. So
Okay.
This is kind of only one of the unique ones that come before. So that procedure would just be different here. The City Council won't see it if it is approved.
Gotcha. Very good. Thank you. Any discussion or any questions for staff from the commission or in regards to what the city attorney has clarified for us? All right. Back to public hearing. Anybody who wishes to speak in favor? Okay, seeing none. Anybody in opposition? All right, very good. Seeing none, we will close the public hearing, turn it over to the commission. Is there a motion?
I move to approve the variance based on staff finding of fact.
There's a motion on the floor by Commissioner Bauman. Is there a second?
Second, Hochhalter.
Sorry, one more time. Who is that?
Hochhalter.
Hochhalter. Very good. We got a motion and a second. Any discussion? All right, hearing none, we will call the roll.
Barnett,
Yes.
Bauman,
Yes.
Demakis,
Yes.
Hochhalter,
Yes.
Offerdahl,
Yes.
Severson,
Yes.
Wagonist.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Very good. On to agenda item number 5, or our second piece of actual business. We have an annexation, public hearing and request by Ron and Linda Terrifair and Mark Frew to annex Lot 4 of Hawks View Edition into the corporate boundary of the city of Minot and amend the future land use map of the comprehensive development plan for low-density residential and very low-density residential to very low-density residential only, and to consider a proposed subdivision plat for Hawks View 3rd Edition, lots 1 and 2. Property is located at 1320 37th Avenue Southeast, and we will hear the staff report.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. Vicinity map here, this is real close to the Minot Country Club. It's kind of to the right side of this, if you will. The property is south of 37th Avenue and west of 14th Street. This is some family members that are kind of redistributing their lots, so it's really kind of a lot line adjustment. It's really simple. It might seem a little confusing, but everything in the green outline is currently platted into 2 lots, the one with the house and the one at the bottom that says text. And what they want to do is basically put this blue line in there so that the house lot gets smaller and the lot at the bottom is combined with the rest of the property. And it's more apparent in the subdivision plat here. You can see the 2 lots that are proposed as Hawks View 3rd Edition. The house lot gets smaller and the other lot gets bigger. So I'll back up here to the zoning. This area is zoned R1, RA, and Ag. That's appropriate. The zoning's not going to change. The land use map is very low density residential and low density residential. The applicants have asked to have it all be very low density residential, which is fine. There's 93 feet of elevation change across these lots, so it's not going to be very easy to develop any kind of density in here. To cut roads and bring in sewer and all that kind of stuff is not feasible. So the land use map is going to be amended. You can see on this diagram, the red line is the city limits line, and it jogs around the one lot that's towards the bottom of the screen there. And we want to annex that into the city along with the subdivision. So this is the annexation exhibit. It shows that current Lot 4 of Hawks View Edition, which will become part of the Lot 2 of the new 3rd Edition. And the annexation plat includes halfway across the street to the center line of the street. Showed you the plat already. So findings of fact, complete application consistent with the comp plan. The lots meet all the bulk requirements of the ordinance and the rezonings in character with the surrounding area. We're holding the public hearing in conduct with the state and city requirements. Recommendations are from the code. There's the boilerplate language about recording the plat, that the signatures need to be established from the city engineer after he reviews it, and then it needs to get recorded at the recorder's office. And the second condition is that the city shall follow the Century Code in terms of the annexation. So really just a straightforward lot line adjustment along with annexation and the land use map amendments. So if you have any questions, I'd be glad to answer them.
Any questions for staff?
Planner Lang, this is Commissioner Bauman here. When or if this were to be annexed into city limits, would there be any additional expense or cost or maintenance, repair, et cetera, responsibilities for the city of Minot to take on this annexation?
To take on provision of utility, of services to the lots?
Yeah, that's a better way to say it.
Well, right now, the street 14th is really not much of a street. It kind of comes down in dead ends, and there's not a lot of development there. The stuff that's there is on septic and North Prairie rural water. So technically, the code would say if we annex property, we're supposed to serve it within 12 months. But in a case like this, it is served with septic, it is served with water, and I don't see it becoming denser in the future. I guess we have to see what the future holds. But again, this is kind of a family thing. They're just readjusting lot lines, so I don't think anybody's going to worry a lot about bringing utilities in. But that's a good point, Mr. Baldwin.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for staff? All right, hearing none, we'll open the public hearing. Is there anybody who wishes to speak in support of this agenda item? Seeing none, is there anybody who wishes to speak in opposition? Seeing none, we will close the public hearing. Turn it over to the commissioners. Is there a motion that anybody wishes to make?
Motion to approve based on staff finding of fact and conditions.
Motion by Commissioner Wagoness to approve based on findings of facts and recommendations. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Commissioner Offerdahl. Any discussion? All right, seeing none, we'll call a roll.
Barnett,
Yes.
Bauman,
Yes.
Demakis,
Yeah.
Hochhalter,
Yes.
Offerdahl,
Yes.
Severson,
Yes.
Wagonist.
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right. The third item of business is a request by, excuse me, Essential Living, Inc. and Andrew Thill in regards to the future land use map and the comprehensive development plan from neighborhood commercial to medium density residential, and to rezone proposed Lot 1 from District R4, planned residential district, to District RM, medium density residential district, and to rezone proposed lots 2 through 32 from District R4, planned residential district, to District R3C, townhouse residential district, and also to replat the property into 33 lots as proposed Essential Townhomes Edition. This property is located at 234 14th Avenue Southeast. It's my understanding we have an individual on the line who will speak after staff report. Is that correct, Mr. Lang?
Yes, it is.
All right. So, staff report.
Okay. This is the location map right next to Roseville Cemetery. This is where that kind of weird dog leg is in the road system. And the South Park Terrace Apartments that people might be familiar with sit there on Lot 1. The entire blue shaded area is about 8.5 acres. And the proposal is to build some townhomes kind of around the apartment. Now, this project's been in the works for a while. I think the year 2013, perhaps, through some HUD funding, and then there was additional, I don't understand all the funding, and Mr. Zakian might explain that later, but through some different fundings, part of it being through the NDR grant, and maybe some other opportunities, the existing apartment complex was remodeled in 2018. And even back to 2013, there were plans to develop the entire parcel. There was a proposal for more apartment buildings and townhomes, requests for some variances to increase density, and that didn't get approved. The variances didn't get approved, but it's my understanding at that time there was a restriction or a lien put on the entire parcel that had to only be used in the future for LMI, low and moderate income development for people. And so now fast forward to fixing up the apartments in 2018, and now we have this townhome proposal. This is an aerial photograph. So these townhomes are going to kind of go below that yellow line on the west, south, and east sides. You'll see them here in a minute. There, and that's the apartment building there. The zoning is R4, which is no longer a valid zoning district, and we're proposing to zone everything as closely as we can to what's there. So the apartments will be RM, which is medium density residential. It's an apartment zone. It allows a density of 6 to 16 units, and this comes in at 10.4, so it's well within that. And then the area where the townhomes will be is going to be zoned, or is proposed to be R3C, which is townhome zoning. For some reason, the future land use map shows this parcel as neighborhood commercial. We don't allow residential uses in commercial zoning anymore, and for one thing, and it doesn't match the character or the land use that's there. So we propose to change from neighborhood commercial to medium density residential, as you see to the east, which is appropriate. Then this is the plat. This shows the big lot, lot 1 with the apartments, and then there's 31 other lots that are earmarked for townhomes. The 22 lots that are on the west and south sides would be the next phase, and then there's an additional 9 lots on the east side that would also be townhomes. The applicants have, as I said, it's been going on for a while, the project, and in this latest rendition, the applicants came to DRT, met with staff. They've done their due diligence and worked with staff to submit these documents. And the zoning makes sense, the land use map makes sense. They need to subdivide. I mean, they're basically doing these things because the city's requested that it be rezoned and the land use map be changed and that the subdivision be created. So I'm going to read the findings of fact here. Complete application. Once we amend the comp plan, it'll be in conformance. The lots all meet the requirements. It's in the character of the neighborhood. And then we're holding the public hearing properly. The staff recommends Planning Commission adopt the findings of fact. There's some different conditions here. We need a stormwater management plan. A site plan is required. Erosion control practices need to meet standards. Connection fees are required when connections are made to city utilities, and there'll be a developer's agreement that'll have to be recorded along with the plat. And then there's this boilerplate language about reviewing, signing, and filing or recording the plat. And as well, we talked a little bit about perhaps a fence might be a condition that if it's something that would help appease some of the neighbors, because there are some neighbors in opposition to this that we will hear from, I'm sure. But a fence might help provide some separation, some barrier there. I think the applicants are willing to do that, although it wasn't budgeted, and this is a federal grant project, so I don't know how that, if you add that cost of the fence in there, how that happens or doesn't happen. But we did get a letter that I want to read into the record here, if I can find it. It was received by the city on March 24th from Jessica Semestad, Smestad, I'm not sure how to pronounce that, 1423 2nd Street Southeast. It says, my name is Jessica Smestad and I reside at 1423 2nd Street Southeast in Minot. I am writing in response to the proposed petition to develop the property at 234 14th Avenue Southeast. My husband Tyrell and I object to this proposal for several reasons. Development of this property could or would likely, number 1, reduce our property value. Number 2, result in the loss of our privacy. Number 3, increase noise, congestion, traffic, and crime in our neighborhood. Number 4, eliminate precious green space, thereby impacting wildlife, in parentheses, bees, birds, deer, and the like, as well as recreational space. And number 5, reduce safe access to nearby park facilities, causing us to have to walk along a busy street with our 2 young children in order to get to the park. Additionally, there is not a housing shortage in the city of Minot, calling into question the need for such a development project. In fact, Minot currently has a housing surplus with 217 single-family homes, townhouses, condos, and manufactured homes actively listed as of March 20th, 2020. In parentheses, a Minot Realtor supplied this information. And to wrap it up, I kindly request that this petition be rejected for the aforementioned reasons. It may not be possible for us to attend the upcoming Planning Commission meetings due to the coronavirus pandemic. However, please feel free to contact me via email if necessary. Again, we are opposed to this proposed property development, and we are opposed to this proposed property development and hope the Planning Commission will reject this petition. And I know Mr. Zakian, Federal Compliance, I don't know what his title is for sure, but he's involved with the NDR funds. And when we talk about affordable housing, it's a little bit different what we're talking here with this LMI as opposed to just, affordable rents across town. And I think Mr. Zakian would like to say a few words maybe about that and maybe some other things, having been involved with the project.
Isn't that better for public comment?
What's that?
Is he part of the staff report?
City staff.
Okay.
Yeah,
All
yeah,
right.
staff.
Go ahead. Yep. Just want to make sure that
Yeah.
we're following through on that, right?
Mr. Chairman and members of the Planning Commission, thank you for the opportunity to speak. I'll try to be as brief as possible, but I do want to give you all the salient facts that relate to this particular project. First, both for you and for the public edification, this project has already been reviewed and approved by the City Council in the context of there is a subrecipient agreement, which is a developer agreement in a different format under the federal rules with a nonprofit corporation. Essential Living is a nonprofit corporation. The CDBG National Disaster Recovery grant funds have been allocated and approved for this project. The project has already begun its due diligence process. A couple of clarifications. One, when the principal planner and the report to you describes a development agreement, that is a specifically required development agreement related to the public utility requirements that you would be imposing on this if you were to approve it. There is already an actual development agreement, which has been reviewed and approved for the actual project, for the townhouses. That is part of the subrecipient agreement. As a policy, and I've now been here for almost 3 years, we insist, whether it's required or not, that all federally funded programs, especially projects like this, must comply with all the city code and ordinance requirements. And where necessary, come before this Planning Commission. Where necessary, have such matters reviewed and approved by the City Council. Where it is necessary to have review and approval by the city engineer, public works director, whatever is required, we do not in any way circumvent this process. I do want to disclose, and this was disclosed to the City Council when this was originally approved back in late 2019, that in 2015, the City of Minot submitted what's known as an action plan, which is the contract between the City of Minot and the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, where it specifies how it will spend money it receives and guarantees to HUD that that money will be spent accordingly. In that 2015 action plan, which was approved by HUD in mid-2016, they promised that this project would be developed as it is presented to you. So if this project does not go forward and is not developed, then the city is not in compliance with the HUD rules and regulations and is not in compliance with the agreement with HUD. Now, I do want to point out there are other projects circling around, some of which have also been approved, that involve LMI housing. Those are discretionary projects. Some of them have been approved by the City Council in 2019. Some are still in the negotiation stage. This project, however, which is known as Park South Phase 1, 2, and 3 in the NDR Action Plan, was a commitment on the part of the city made in 2015 to be done. Now, in the context of low and moderate income housing, there does seem to be a disconnect, which it's my responsibility to try to correct in terms of understanding the type of housing we are talking about. There is a critical need for a certain population in Minot to be provided with quality, decent, affordable housing, which this city as a whole is not currently providing. As an example, Park South 1, which was the first phase of this three-phase project, has been completed, and we get a monthly report on the occupancy rate. For the LMI apartments in Park South 1, they are at 100% occupancy and have been for multiple months. We have 3 other LMI-specific projects, all of which came to you for subdivision approvals in 2015, I believe, and 2016. Those are Fieldcrest, Sunset Ridge, and Cook's Court. They are currently reporting, and they are required to give me, as part of the compliance, they are required to give me quarterly reports on their occupancy rates. They are currently in their most recent one, which is for the first quarter of 2020. They are currently showing an occupancy rate of 5% or less. Also, there is a waiting list at the Municipal Housing Authority of 245 households. That has increased significantly since January, when it was only 200 households. Those households meet low and moderate income standards. They are currently not in housing that is either considered to be quality housing or truly affordable housing. They are on a waiting list for what's known as Section 8 Housing Choice Voucher. And those vouchers will pay 1/3 of a recipient of that voucher's rent. Now, what in general that means is that somebody who gets a housing choice voucher usually gets about 2/3 of their rent paid through a federal subsidy, but the other third is paid by the individual. And those housing choice vouchers are primarily going into the private sector, privately owned apartment buildings, which is a good program. On average, each year, the Minot Housing Authority is only getting 8 to 10 new housing choice vouchers. So there clearly is a critical need to try to help these people. The rents that are being charged for Park South 1, that will be charged for Park South 2, and that are currently being charged for Fieldcrest, Sunset Ridge, and Cook's Court, are the rents that they can afford to pay. So they're not having to deal with the issue of needing 2/3 of a housing choice voucher. So as an example, hypothetically, a single bedroom apartment in a privately owned, well-maintained apartment building is going for, let's say, $600. It varies, some are $500, some are $700. On average, a recipient of a housing choice voucher will be able to get $300 to $400 of that rent covered. They will have to pick up the rest. In the CDBG disaster recovery and the CDBG National Disaster Recovery apartment buildings that we have built and would like to build, that rent is at the $300 to $400 level. So there is no need for the housing choice voucher. So we have, at a very least, a need for another 245 units based on the current waiting list with the Minot Housing Authority. Realistically, the current market is not going to sustain that. We don't have sufficient funding to do that. But the less than 30 units in this phase 2 would be at least an appreciable step forward. That pretty much, I think, addresses all the issues that may have been raised or might be raised. One other thing I would want to point out is that we are providing most of the funding for phase 2 through the federal tax dollars. There are no city funds involved in this project. The state of North Dakota has also provided modest funding for this project. For the Phase 1 project, which your principal planner described to you, that was a multiple leverage project. The city only funded for that one about 40% of the cost of Park South 1, and the state of North Dakota picked up 40% of the cost. This one, because it's a smaller number of units, and the state doesn't have the same resources it had back in 2017 and 18 when we did that project, are contributing a smaller amount, which is why we're contributing a larger amount. But again, I want to emphasize there is no city funds in this project. And I'd be glad to answer any questions anybody has. And the state doesn't have the same resources.
Are there any questions from the commission?
When we did that project, are contributing a smaller amount.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. I do want to say that I've been here for almost 3 years. This is my first opportunity to come and address you. I appreciate that opportunity. I do want to say that I think you all are doing a great job. And you've supported a lot of our projects in the past, and I've really appreciated that. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you.
I want to say that I've been here for almost 3 years. This is my first opportunity to come and
Any other questions or concerns from the commission for staff on the report?
This is Commissioner Bauman here. A question for Principal Planner Lang. Just in terms of how this project moves forward, is what we see in terms of the plat and the subdivision plat, is that if we approve this and the City Council recommended and the City Council approves it, will the developer need to come back with an official development plan of kind of what it would look like and what they're doing to meet any development requirements, or will if we recommend it and the City Council approves it, will the developer then just be okay to go from there? So I'm wondering about timing, and is now the time to talk about questions of how the subdivision is laid out and put those requests? Sorry, I realize that's a lot.
Commissioner Bauman, as I understand it, this is a couple of different phases, the 22 lots and the 9 lots. But as this moves forward, as I read into the conditions, we need to have a site plan submitted so that we can review that. Engineering, planning, fire, all the different departments of the city will review that. And also there's other engineering requirements for stormwater management, for erosion and sediment control that I read into the conditions. So there will be further plan review, but there's not going to be a formal plan submittal and review by commission and council. That'll be administrative once we get through this part of the process, as I understand it, right, John?
This is John Zakian again for those on the phone. We are currently funding the 22 units. At the present time, there is no funding yet committed or available for the 9 units.
But we'll still include them as
Yes, we're
this
absolutely. We
subdivision.
want this whole thing all done at once, and we want to make sure it fully complies with all your requirements and the city requirements and the city engineer's requirements. But I just want everybody to understand we're not fully funding this yet. We're only funding part of it.
Okay, thank you.
Very good. Anything further for staff?
Did you want Blake to talk now?
Well, I should probably open the public hearing first. Yep. So I'm going to open the public hearing, and we have an individual on the phone who's going to speak on behalf of the application. We will start with that since they are not in the room. Go ahead. Please identify yourself for the record, and the floor is yours.
Okay, Chairman Demekas and Commissioners, thank you very much. This is Blake Nybakken representing Essential Living on behalf of this project. I guess I'd just like to say thank you to Lance and staff and John for all the work that they've done to help us along to get the project to this point. We're happy with where we're at with the phase 1 of the project and looking forward to moving this second phase into reality. Just a couple of points, if I would. I think Mr. Zakian touched on a lot of the items that I was going to bring up, specifically in regards to the zoning ordinance. Section 8.2 for the R3C designation, it specifically mentioned that the district would be limited to medium density parcels that are immediately abutting existing family residential where townhome versus multi-story, multiple family is more compatible. So we feel like we're putting an appropriate buffer in between the existing apartment building there. You know, like John mentioned, the subrecipient agreement is already done. The NDR funding has been awarded, and the project has otherwise been thoroughly reviewed and vetted. Another part of the phase 1 project that we implemented was a regional stormwater system that not only gave us some capacity for future expansion on the site, but it also benefited the surrounding area and the Park District property with some low-lying areas that they had that would flood during certain rain events. You know, that was funded in part by a CDBG grant authorized by Governor Dalrymple in the amount of $725,000. And so we've done quite a few things in preparation for this second phase. And you know, we're certainly open to any, I guess, suggestions. We know that there have been some concerns from neighbors. A fence was brought up today. The letter that was on record, you know, mentioned that there was a shortcut that they liked taking to the park. So, you know, whether we do the fence or not, we're certainly open to that as a group. And I guess we just look forward to, you know, hopefully providing some additional affordable housing for the community. So I'm available for any questions if anybody has any.
Are there any questions from the commission for Mr. Nybach? All right, very good, Blake. Just hang out. If we need you, we'll get back to you.
Thank you.
Is there any other individuals who wish to speak in support of this application, either on the phone or in the room? All right. Seeing none and hearing none, is there anybody who wishes to speak in opposition of this application? Good. We'll just go one at a time here.
Hi, I'm Mary Frost. I live at 1439 2nd Street Southeast, and I oppose it for all the reasons that Jennifer, the one that wrote the letter, all the reasons that she stated.
Very good. Is there anything else you wish to add?
I was wondering what kind of fence they were thinking about putting up.
Blake, can you speak to any potential fencing?
Well, I guess originally we hadn't incorporated that, but we're certainly open to it. You know, whether it's you know, a 6-foot cedar privacy fence or something along those lines, if that's desired, you know, we're open to that. So.
Okay.
And how far away from the property are you going to build on 2nd Street Southeast?
Setback. What's the setback?
Probably. Are you, ma'am, are you asking about how far the units will be from the public street?
Yes.
The setback?
No, from our property.
From your backyard to your rear lot line to
where they're going
units
to
would
build.
be?
Yeah.
Well, the rear setback in this zoning is, I'm looking here real quick, hold on. Gosh, dang it. Can't seem to find it. Here it is, okay. R3C, rear setback is 25 feet. So from the property line, the closest that they could be would be 25 feet. They could be further than that. I'm not sure what they haven't submitted the site plan yet. That's part of the requirements as they move forward. One of the conditions of recommendation or approval is that they have to submit a site plan for staff to review.
And is there gonna be an alley back there too, or?
I'm not aware of any alley that's back there. Another lady brought up the fact that she thought there was an alley. I don't know, the surveyors that prepared the plat do title search, and none of that ever came up in anything, so I'm not sure about the alley.
Okay. And they do know that floods a lot back there. It's a high water table back there.
I beg your pardon?
I said they do know that it's a high flood area back there. The water table is really high.
Right, and like you said, they spent $725,000 to make the area better.
Is it gonna run into our yards then? The water, when they're gonna redo the land?
They have to do a stormwater management plan to show how they're going to control the water on the property. It has to be approved by the engineering department. So again, more planning documents that are to come, but that has to meet certain standards that are set forth in the ordinances, and engineering will make sure that they comply.
Okay. All right, that's all I have.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anybody else who wishes to speak? Please
Yes,
come
Mr.
forward.
Mackis. This is Bonnie Freed calling.
Hold on, Bonnie.
With it.
Bonnie, hold on. We've got one that was already on the way up to the podium. I will get to you next, okay?
Okay.
Sorry. Thank you.
Yes, hi, my name is Leita Tadros, and I live at 1515 2nd Street Southeast. So as soon as I open my yard, I'm right actually in the park. I truly oppose this decision. I feel that these townhomes can be built somewhere else. We have a pretty good neighborhood, and that will bring the neighborhood down. I'm sure you all know that. The value of my home is gonna plummet down. Too many reasons why these townhomes should not be built there. However, is that going to obstruct my view to the park? Like when I go out into my yard, am I going to see these townhomes right there in front of me? I'm asking. How far away would these homes be from my home? I'm on 1515 2nd Street Southeast.
Because I don't know where your property is, but
You know the log cabin home on 15th Street? There's only one log cabin home right there, right in the Ball Diamonds. That's me.
Blake, can you speak to this at all?
You know, I would have to pull up, I don't have the addresses on the plan that I'm looking at. You know, like Lance was mentioning, you know, we're gonna meet the proper required setbacks and, you know, any other zoning requirements that there are for placements on the property. And again, the parcel or the portion of the parcel that we're looking at developing, you know, it is not parkland. It's undeveloped private property. So I guess that's all I would say to address that. And again, if it's a matter of screening or anything like that, if a privacy fence is required, then, you know, we would certainly be open to doing that.
I don't know. He hasn't spoken.
Thank you.
How soon are they gonna start building these homes, may I ask?
my understanding they'd like to start this construction season.
This year? I just wish you guys would consider it. That's all I want to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Back to the phone. Bonnie, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Go ahead. Can you give us your name again, please?
Yes, my name is Bonnie Freed, and I live at 1427 2nd Street Southeast. We have owned our home for 28 years, and I spoke with Mr. Lang today of several of my concerns. Number one, we have a deck that is off the ground, and it's really not going to be very appealing to sit on our patio and look into the yards of these low-income families. I know there's some opposed and some not for the fence, but I would be one that I think that a privacy fence, and I'm not sure that 6 feet would be enough, but I am concerned about that. The other thing is there are many people that use our access through the Park South Apartments to get to our backyard. With our busy street, if any of us have an event or anything, we have asked people to park in the back because of so much traffic, and then we block traffic if people are parked on the one side of the street. I am definitely not for this. I've spoken to a couple of other people on our street, and they are highly against it also. So I would hope that you would take the property owners into consideration with doing this. I also do believe that there is enough land around Minot that they don't have to build where it's single family dwellings. It's one thing being in the Park South Apartments, but to build how many more that they are actually talking about doing, I don't know of any of us in this area that would be for this whole deal. So I would ask that you take that into consideration. And I'm pretty sure that if the coronavirus is tamed down, that there will be a bunch of us at the meeting on the 20th. So I would just ask that, you take some of these things into consideration.
Thank you. Appreciate your comments. Anybody else on the phone who wishes to speak? Since we're on the phone right now. Anybody else in the room, either for or against?
Chairman Dominguez, this is Blake Nybach, and again, if I could,
Yes, go ahead.
If I could rejoin the conversation, I guess I would just like to address a couple things that have come up. I've heard some concerns about property value, and I've heard some concerns about potential crime and how this might impact. I think that those claims are largely unfounded, and that it probably represents a negative stereotype that's associated with affordable housing residents. The type of people that we're expecting in these properties are the same type of residents that we have in the existing building. It's single-parent households, individuals on fixed income, could be essential service workers, which includes city and county employees, school employees, medical long-term care facility employees whose wages just are not enough, and that it qualifies them for affordable housing. So I guess to say that you don't want to look at their backyard just because they may not have the income, these may be the same residents in other properties throughout town that are not looking to be on the third story of the building, and they want their own backyard and they want their own garage so that their kids can put bikes in it. So I hope that they'll take that into consideration as well. And then again, it's a large site. It's an 8-acre property overall, but it's private property, and we've done several things to prepare it for future development, and those have all been approved previously as a project overall. And so I hope that we don't use this required zoning change as kind of a way to pick who the neighbors are, or pick who winners and losers are in terms of potential competition throughout town. So thank you again.
Mr. Nybakken?
Yes?
I would like to make a comment to that. We are not saying that these people are going to be below us or anything like that. We have all paid, it's the prices of our homes that are going to be drastically valued lower because of the homes that are being built behind us. I believe that you know, that this kind of housing is needed in every city. And I don't believe that any of the neighbors I've visited with feel that these people are going to be beneath us. You just have to remember, we've all had access to this back area with not near the population you are talking about and putting into these apartments or townhomes or whatever. So I think maybe that some of our comments were mistaken.
Very good. Thank you for the clarification. Is there any additional information that anybody wishes to add?
Can my husband speak on speakerphone? Because he's working right now, but he would like to put a wording about this?
Can we get that on the record somehow?
Yeah, we need his name and address on the record.
Sure. If you come up and get it through the speaker so it can be heard.
I'm gonna put you on speaker.
Please keep it to new information, please.
I'm sorry?
Please keep it to new
Of
information,
course.
please.
Well, it's regarding the townhomes.
Right.
Okay, you're on speakerphone. You can speak.
Please give us your name, please. Sir,
His name is Isaac Tadros.
I need it from him,
Oh, he
please.
wants you to,
We need it in front of the
actually say your
microphone.
name and where you live and everything.
Okay, my name is Isaac Tedros, and I'm living in my house, 1515 2nd Street Southeast, Minot, North Dakota 58701. Okay, I oppose this, all this townhouses and all this low-income project, which is going to turn to a ghetto, the same as any big cities. Okay, and you cannot stop it from happening. Okay, and my house and all the houses around the area that it's affected, it's gonna low down the tubes, and we paying taxes just for that purpose. Okay, now you, just because not you, the city of Minot, just because you wanna make some extra money, okay, let's build some extra low-income houses here and there, okay, and stuff them anywhere. No, sir, no, that is wrong on your part. There is people and there is kids that they come and I see them every summer, fall, spring, summer, and fall. They play in baseball, tennis, and they enjoy this park. If you take part of it or all of it, okay, every little by little, next year you're going to take some. Next year you're going to take a following some. The following year you're going to take, there'll be no more playground for the kids. And after my tax money and all my neighbors' tax money went to verify, to rebuild and put all this synthetic, what do you call that, grass, okay, millions of dollars, now you want to take it down the tubes. That's not right. That is wrong. Look to what happened in Williston. Look to what happened in Dickinson.
Sir, can you stay on point, please? Do you have anything else you wish to add?
Can you
What
hear-
did he say, Lisa?
He says, do you have anything else that you wish to add? Because I guess this is.
Well, I was, and I just...
We're not getting into conversations about other
We have
cities. Do you
to-
have
we
anything
have
in
to
regards
keep
to
it
this
here in
project
mind.
you wish to add, sir?
We don't want to
Yeah.
discuss Williston. We want to discuss Minot.
Really? Okay, well, history repeats itself, if you know what I mean. Okay? I mean, I never saw such people, they walk in the street in Minot until the balcony open. I don't know if that
Okay, sir,
was...
do you have anything you wish to add as to this project? Otherwise, I'm sorry.
What we want to say is, I wish that you guys can consider this because the value of the homes are just going to shoot down to, it's not a good idea.
Thank
It's
you.
not a good idea. And we already pay $2,800 a year on taxes. I mean, for our home to just plummet down to a ghetto, that's what it's going to turn out to be, a ghetto.
And if you don't know what
Thank you.
ghetto is, just Google it.
I'm sure they know what a ghetto is, Dad.
Very good. All right, we are going to close the public hearing, seeing no more further comments. I'll turn it over to the commission for discussion or a motion. Excuse me, for a motion, I'm sorry.
Chairman Demakis, can I ask Lance a question quick?
Sure, go ahead.
I'm curious, if we were to add a condition of adding a privacy fence, how would it be best described looking at the plat in front of us?
Hey, Todd, can you repeat that and speak up a little bit? Didn't come through real clear.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, let me turn my volume up. I'm inquiring how we might best describe a privacy fence that's been discussed on this plat. How would we best describe it if we were to add that condition?
A privacy fence?
Yeah, what he's asking is how would it be best to potentially add that as a requirement to this? Would it need to be specifically stated as to location or just merely that the project, you know?
The height, the location.
Yeah. What kind of requirements would be needed if the commission were to add that as a requirement?
I think the single-family houses are on the west side, right? So I would say along the west property line, what the fence regs say, 6 foot is the maximum height without a conditional use permit. So a 6 foot solid privacy fence would be allowed by code along what that would be the rear lot line of the townhomes and the rear lot line of the homes abutting for the west property line. And I suppose it could be PVC, polyvinyl, it could be wood, cedar, you know, a solid privacy fence.
Thank you.
Okay, back to the original item on the table. Is there a motion from the commission on this matter?
I'll make a motion to approve approve based on staff finding of fact and conditions. And I'd like to add the condition that we, a 6 foot privacy fence be added along the west property line of abutting properties.
All right, we have a motion on the floor from Commissioner Wagonist to approve based on staff finding facts and recommendation with the addition of a privacy fence 6 feet high along the west side of the project.
Yep.
Is that correct?
Correct.
Todd?
Yes, thank you.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Who is that?
Boyd Severson.
Thank you. Sorry, I can't recognize voices all the time. Okay. So we have a motion and a second. Is there discussion? All right, hearing none, will you please call the roll?
Barnett,
Yes.
Bauman,
Yes.
Demakis,
Yes.
Hochhalter,
Yes.
Offerdahl,
Yes.
Severson,
Yes.
Wagonest,
Yes.
and then I'm going to check to see if, is Bullinger on the line? Coop? Okay, motion carries. Want to let everyone in the audience and at home know that this matter is a recommendation at this level. This will go to the City Council at the Monday, April 20th City Council meeting, 5:30 p.m. in this room. They will make the final decision on this matter. Again, the Planning Commission only made a recommendation on this case this evening. Please attend that meeting or send letters to your councilmen if you have concerns. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Brian. The last item on the agenda is discussion related to the size of the Planning Commission.
Yes.
On my agenda, is it still on the agenda?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
It still is. Thank you. We currently have 13 members on our Planning Commission. We're down 4 members right now. Just to let everyone know, of those 13 members, 3 of them have to be appointed by the Ward County Commissioners. They have to live in the 2-mile area around city limits. We have 1 opening from the 2-mile area right now. We have 3 openings for city representatives on the commission. In the last 6 months or so, we've lost Jeanette Larshus, Randy Birch, and John Hanson. They were city representatives on the Planning Commission. From the county, we've lost Timothy Keller. He moved out of state. We're kind of at the mercy of the county commissioners to appoint the county representative. But we've had some difficulty recruiting members. I've announced it at city council meetings and et cetera, talked to the community about this as well. I do have one person who's interested in joining the commission. Her name is Alicia Gates. She couldn't be here tonight. She's supposed to be in Fargo today, so she couldn't be here tonight. But my proposal to the commission, and this I've not really formally discussed this with the city council yet, is I'm proposing we reduce the size of the commission from 13 down to 11. That would require us to have a quorum of 6 rather than 7. So we would reduce the 2 city representatives, and we can add Ms. Gates to the commission. We would just be one person shy. That would be the county representative. State law requires a minimum of 10 on the commission. I recommend that we go to 11. That way we can maximize our quorum at 6 with 11 people rather than 10. Stephanie, are you still on the line? Is there anything that I misspoke there? Is there anything that was incorrect?
Yes, I am on the line. This is Beth Solheim, and I'm looking at North Dakota Century Code Section 40-4803, and it actually states that the governing body of the city can appoint a planning commission to consist of not more than 10 members in the city, and then there has to be the three members residing outside of the corporate limits in the county.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. So then the board does not need to be 11 total people.
No.
Okay.
That's correct.
I'm
It's
sorry,
not
so-
more than 10, so 10 is the max.
Right.
Gotcha.
10 city and
Yeah.
3
10 max total. Is that correct, or is that 10 city? Can you clarify, please?
10 people maximum for the city representatives, and then there
Okay.
has to be 3 from the county based upon our population.
13 max.
Yes. Yeah. So right now we're at the maximum of 10. We can reduce much more, but the problem is if we go from 10 down to 6, then we're going to have to eliminate somebody from the commission. We don't want to do that. My recommendation is we take a proposal to the city council, ask them to reduce the commission to 11. We can appoint Ms. Gates. We would be one person shy of a full commission at 11. And that person would have to reside in the 2 mile.
But we're missing 2 Ward County.
1 Ward County.
Oh, 1.
Yeah.
Who's the 2 Ward County?
I believe it's Coop and Bollinger. Is that correct, Jody?
That's what's listed on the website.
Yeah.
Can I ask a follow-up here in terms of the dynamic of the board? So we're proposing 11, which is nice. You don't have any ties. Just speaking from general experience, I find this board odd in that the chair votes, even when there's no tie. Is that in our code? Is that state law? Is that is that city ordinance, or is that code? Because I would advocate for making the chair a non-voting member and kicking it down, having 10 with the chair, 9 voting members. And the chair votes, then the chair would vote to break a tie.
So that'd still be 11, right?
I'm sorry, I guess we could go down to 8 really then in theory. I mean, but my curiosity, I guess ultimately my curiosity is before I got ahead, I'm getting ahead of myself, is does the chair have to vote? Is that something that just has happened here, or is it a requirement?
I don't believe it's a requirement that the chair has to vote. Stephanie, is there anything in the Century Code that requires the chair to vote?
I don't see anything here offhand, but it's a discussion that hasn't taken place yet, so I can definitely take a look at that and report back.
Okay.
I mean, from my perspective, I know we're having this problem. It seems to get problems getting people to meetings absent COVID-19. If we could have a board, if you could get a board of 3 county, 6 city of like 9, or maybe even 8, where you don't run into the issue of a tie, in terms of the chair and a vote. I think actually sometimes, less is more.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I wouldn't have a problem going from 13 to 8, in all honesty. But we've got somebody who wants to get on it, then I think, by all means, we should pursue that if we can.
Okay.
That's just my thought on that.
thoughts from other commissioners?
So
I'd be curious, without getting too deep. I'm sorry, Chairman Demakis, may I speak?
Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I'd be curious at a very high level. I mean, how are we recruiting members to our commission? I mean, I don't know. That's why I asked.
Yeah, I've announced it at city council meetings that there's openings. I've actually talked to some of our customers that come into the building too at Public Works with no success either. So that's about the recruitment level that we've done so far to bring people onto the planning commission. And unfortunately, I'm not finding any responses from people who are, sometimes people are just not available on this night, or they're just busy with other activities. And 13 is a large number. It's the largest commission I've ever worked with in my career. Same with you, Lance?
9.
9? Okay.
I think, 8, 9.
Chairman Demakis, may I ask another question?
Sure.
Yeah, go ahead.
I based on Chairman Demakis' comments to possibly go to 8, I guess my recommendation is possibly to have you approach the city council and gather their thoughts. And then we come back around and
Right.
really figure out how big we want to be or
I was told to. That's a good suggestion. I was told to start here and then bring the thoughts of the planning commission to the city council and ask the council what kind of direction they would like to go in. But we'd certainly want to listen to the commissioners' advice first before we take it to the council.
Right. I guess I think I've been on the commission 6 years, maybe 7, and it's kind of been an ongoing thing, off and on, but more on. Where we're short rather than not. So I kind of like our commissioner's direction of maybe 8's better, or something like that.
Right now, we have 9 members, so if we go down to 8, then somebody would have to step down. Okay.
the other question, what we base this on some other areas when we were voting on this. What does the surrounding cities do? What size are they? What's the Bismarck, Fargo, Grand Forks? What are some of the things that we kind of look for?
Yeah, I can research that.
Just out of curiosity.
I can research that and email it to the commissioners.
I'll tell you from my just general experience with board work is the bigger the board, the more difficult it is. Less is always, in this case, less is always more. You get better communication, you get better attendance, and frankly, sometimes you get better ideas. When you've got a board of, I've been on boards of 15, I know some people are on boards of 30. You get lost in the minutia. I think the efficiency level could go up, and the productivity will go up. But it would be nice to know, as Commissioner Offit also, what are we looking at in terms of our neighbors?
And Mr. Chairman, this is just a discussion item tonight. We're not voting on anything. There's nothing prepared for you to vote on. It was just a discussion item.
So,
go ahead.
Commissioner Demakis, you're thinking 5 city and 3 county. Is that what your 8 is coming up to be?
Well, that's what I think maybe 9 is probably the better number, because then you're 6'3".
Okay.
It's 2 to 1. 9 is probably your better number.
Okay.
But I like looking at it, 8 just came out.
Right.
But
right.
again, we're avoiding in that scenario. Your chair is voting, which is fine. I mean, I found it odd because it's just gone against every board I've ever sat on, where chair just doesn't vote.
Unless they break a tie, right?
Unless they break a tie, exactly.
So 9, you would be the tiebreaker.
Right, and if we went that route, otherwise, if we continue with business as usual, no, it's 5. You'd always be at 5-4. So, no, I like that idea of 6.
So
of 6-3.
Still, if we go to 9 members, we still have to have 3 county reps, which means somebody will still have to step down.
Right.
Gotcha.
That's on the commission now. Okay. Once we appoint the Ward County representative. So we have to, by state law, we have to have 3 Ward County residents that live in the 2 mile to serve on this commission.
And maybe that can sort its way out as we come to fall with terms expiring and things of that nature, you know.
Because how many do we have? Am I missing somebody here? We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 right now.
Yes.
And then we have the new one, Alicia Gates, is that what you said?
Yes.
So she would be 10.
She's not new technically. She has not been appointed yet.
Okay, so we're at 9, so we're
Yeah.
currently at, if we were to follow this.
I don't want to appoint her and then find out we're going to cut back even further, and then, you know, I wanted to hold off on her appointment until we decided on a number.
And I guess we are missing one ward county,
Sure,
so that
one
is,
county.
yeah.
Yes.
So that's where the 10 is, okay.
Yep.
I was doing math in my head.
So that's, my recommendation is to go to 11. You have the 3 county representatives. We can appoint Ms. Gates. And then,
Our quorum is 6 then under 11.
yes, a quorum would be 6 members out of 11.
Any 6.
Any
It
6.
doesn't mess with, okay.
Nope, any 6.
And if it went down to 9, the quorum would be
5.
5.
You have to have 50% plus 1.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
I want to just add or reiterate and possibly look at the way we're recruiting for the open seat. You know, a change probably is needed. Maybe expand on what we're doing, different approach.
Good point.
I would also like to say from the Association of Builders, there's at least 2 other members that are on our board that would be interested in serving as commissioners. I don't know if either one of them have ever been approached or talked about either.
Who is that again? Can you?
Just throwing it out there.
Builders.
Okay.
This is Commissioner Bauman, and I'm just going to chime in. Maybe Mr. Billingsley, is there a correct avenue if we know people in our daily interactions who might be interested? What is the correct way to get their name and contact information to you as an effort of kind of ongoing recruitment?
Commissioner Bauman, they can contact my office. They can contact me personally. They can email me. They can contact Lance Lang, anybody in the planning department, and simply request that they're interested. We're going to need the verification on their residency. We want to make sure they live in city limits. If they live in the 2 mile, then I would direct them to go to the county commissioners and request appointment to the planning commission that way. But we basically just want to check out their background, make sure they live in the city, and make sure they're going to be available for these meetings and will be a dedicated member of the commission.
Okay. And would you prefer that we do an introduction or give you a heads up that we've spoken to someone and they will be contacting you, so you have a little bit of notice before you receive contact from them?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, yes.
Very good.
Thank you.
Okay, so I'll go back to the commission with all the suggestions that were, or the council with all the suggestions that were made tonight, and they'll probably make a decision in the near future.
All right, very
Okay.
good.
Okay.
All right, that is the end of the agenda. We are
Motion to adjourn.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Hey Minot, 2020 is the year for more. Yes, it's the U.S. Census season, and with it, Minot could see more. More opportunities for business, more federal funding for roads, for our schools, and for our community. Take part in something more. Take the census, because for us, more means more. Visit minotnd.org to learn more.